What's up, guys? Gunny here. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. We're back on YouTube after another suspension, but we are recording this live on twitch.tv/Gundacker99. So if you guys have only been on YouTube and not been part of the fun on Twitch, I definitely encourage you guys to try Twitch out, twitch.tv/Gundacker99. I'll probably put a link in a pinned comment below. I'm scared to put links in the description anymore. I'm just going to delete every video I ever did, and it's just going to be just like empty descriptions from now on. Gosh darn it. Anyway, this video, as promised, a quick content video for the Christmas slate on FanDuel, DraftKings, Yahoo, and I want to touch on the offerings from all the different sites and kind of explain where I'll be, what I'll be doing, and the pros and cons of each contest. And then, of course, we'll dive into all of the 5 games. I want to remind you guys that the spreadsheet that I'll be using throughout the duration of this broadcast is a spreadsheet I coded and share with all the subscribers at rundfs.com every day, and it also includes my projections and my personal player pool, how I will personally attack the slate in a tiered structure. I will be touching up and fixing, adding, tweaking some stuff for the New Year launch. But for the time being, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So we got a lot of good stuff here, including my personal projections for not just FanDuel, not just DraftKings, and not just Yahoo, but we also have Super Draft projections built in to the spreadsheet. So you don't have to just be a DraftKings player to maybe draw benefit from VIP and so on and so forth. So there is that. If you guys want to be part of that, be part of the subscription sub club, go to rundfs.com, make yourself an account. We do have the 2020 year passes live and available. These are only going to be available for another week or so, probably just this week, really. And they're $700 for the entire year. It's 12 months of coverage for every sport that I do. That's going to be the rest of this NBA season, the rest of this NFL season, the playoffs. We got the entire baseball season. And if you guys haven't seen my baseball spreadsheet or haven't been around for the baseball podcast and whatnot, I think my spreadsheet does the greatest job out there to really allow the everyman to play with at your fingertip access to advanced analytics, and not just access to it, but how to understand it. It's color coded. It's quick reference. It's all super good. And a lot of the Vipers will swear by it. So I look for other video. I'll have other videos probably talking about the perks of the year-long pass. And then, of course, not only you get this year's NBA, this year's NFL season, but you're going to get pretty much the entire NFL regular season next year. I actually think it would be the entire NFL regular season next year, and the big chunk of the NBA season next year. And then, of course, in the in-betweens, we have the 24/7 Discord that you guys will get full access to, which I'm in there almost 24/7. Whenever I'm not sleeping, I have it open on my phone or on my laptop, my computers. And there's always somebody in there. And while I only cover the main sports, the NFLs, the NBAs, the baseballs of the world, we do have NASCAR coverage with spreadsheets for that. Shout out to Smeezy. And, of course, we got cats in there covering all different sports, or even playing all different sports. I don't want to say covering, but a really strong group of DFS players playing golf and soccer, whatever you call it. Soccer. I was going to say football, but soccer, I guess, is what you guys would know it as. And, yeah, all that good stuff. So definitely recommend you guys check that out. And as an added bonus to getting the year pass this week, buy it now. You guys will actually get 2 pieces of merchandise from the gundacker.live/merch store. I'll bring it up here so you guys can choose 2 shirts, even 2 hoodies. I guess it was built to be 1 shirt, 1 hoodie. But if you guys wanted to get a RunDFS.com shirt, Sport for the Year, or a Gundacker Polar Bear logo, whether it be on a hoodie or shirt, that would be available to you as well. So, yeah, I've tried to make the year pass as beneficial as possible with a good bulk discount. Week passes, I think right now are $30. So times 52, you're going to be dealing with 1,500. So this is half all that, and it's all good stuff, right? So go check that out. And then, of course, if you didn't want the year pass, we have week passes, month passes, all that good stuff. Tomorrow or today, whatever day you're consuming this video, Christmas is a 5-game all-day NBA slate. It's one of my favorite yearly traditions to sweat NBA games game by game and incrementally go forward as you track your lineups and kind of see, oh, I hit here. If you're playing on DraftKings, you can late swap out here. If one of your punts hit and you want to raise floors, it's such an amazing day of basketball. I think I'll have another similar day to this for Martin Luther King's Day, but this one is just 5 games, so it's a lot easier to absorb all the news and kind of be ready for each game. All the sites have kind of put up a really big promotional contest. DraftKings, FanDuel, and Yahoo are going to be the main ones I talk about here. So I'm going to start with DraftKings here. They have a Holiday Millionaire Maker, which is incredible, to give away $1 million to first place. Now, it'd be incredible to win it, but it's certainly a massively top-heavy contest, perhaps one of the most top-heavy contests in the history of DFS. But it's for entertainment, it's for fun, it's promotional. They have $1 million to first, $100,000 to second, $40,000 to third place, $30,000 to fourth, $25,000 to fifth, $20,000 to sixth, and then when you get down to 10,000 or 10th place, that's $10,000. So the gap between first and 10th place could be less than 10 fantasy points, less than 5 fantasy points, and that'll be the gap between someone being a millionaire and walking away with $10,000 for their 1099s for the fiscal year. They've also added a $50K stocking bonus, which apparently every lineup in the Holiday Millionaire Maker that scores 20 plus steals and blocks combined will split a share of $50K. So who's your heavy block guys to maybe go after that side pot? Maybe heavy steal guys as well. Just knowing off the top of my head, and we'll talk more about it later, but Milwaukee will have Brook Lopez, who could be really sneaky for blocks. Look at his game log: 2, 7, 3, 3, a bunch of 3. So 3 blocks from him on your way to 20. It might be somebody to consider. FanDuel giving away $200K to first and a $1 million prize pool for them. We'll pull up that contest, kind of talk about the different payout structures there. $200K to first, $50K to second, $25K to third, 10th place, $2,000. So not as a big drop off from first to 10th place, but still, all these contests are pretty much designed to be top heavy when it comes to giant prize pools like this. So $200K of $1 million prize pool to first place is a lot. And then min cash is going to be $25. So it is $12.25 to enter this one. I did forget to mention the DraftKings one was $25 to enter that one, and that one does pay out $40 min cash, so it's not a 2x min cash. So everything about DraftKings from a mass entry standpoint is basically win first or whatever, dog. Thanks for coming. FanDuel's a little bit better because you do get over 2x your buy-in, which is nice. And then, whether or not you're going 150 max or 50 entry, stuff like that, you don't feel as pressured to finish as high or higher as long as your core kind of gets you 40% in the cash or whatnot. But still, it's going to be pretty top heavy. But that's the name of the game for these Christmas contests. And then the best for last in terms of return on investment. When we talk about amount of entries into these contests and the prize pools and how borderline astronomical it is to maybe finish up top, there's 97,181 potential entrants to the Santa Slam. On the DraftKings Holiday Millionaire Maker, there's 117,600 potential entrants. And that's definitely astronomical lightning strike odds for that one. But Yahoo, if you guys don't play on Yahoo, sports.yahoo/daily fantasy, I think I have a referral code. I don't even care. I definitely ain't putting a referral link in the description, so I don't even care. I'm not affiliated with any of these sites. I'm just kind of showing you guys the options. At most, this contest will have 15,000 entries on a 200,000 prize pool. And no rake. Matter of fact, they're pumping in guaranteed overlay. So even if it did fill, you would get overlay style odds, which is super nice of them to do. A couple times a year, they've definitely put out some can't fade contests, and I would recommend that you guys check this one out. It's a $10 entry, 20 entry max. Maybe a year ago, you guys that tried to play Yahoo discovered that Yahoo wasn't available in your state. I think Florida is one of those. Well, now they're available in a lot of those states. So if you weren't able to play Yahoo a year ago, maybe double check right now and just kind of see if your state's been opened up, because I do know that they've opened up a few states that a lot of people complained about them missing. Yahoo's very I want to say very different, but if you've never played on Yahoo, it's a little bit different because the salary cap is not 50,000 like other sites. It's $200, and guys are priced at, like James Harden, for instance, $53 of a $200 salary. So you kind of have to play with that, and then of course your punts are a little bit cheaper and whatnot. And then the way their roster, I believe they had DraftKings roster with FanDuel scoring. Let me double check that. Does it show NBA rules here? It does. Congratulations. All right, NBA points or point, rebound 1.2, blocks and steals, 3 points. So and -1 for turnover. So it is FanDuel scoring with DraftKings lineup construction. So if you loved FanDuel scoring and you like DraftKings versatility in their line of construction, your multi-position eligible kind of stuff. This I think Yahoo's a great medium. I would be playing a lot more Yahoo if there was some more, if there was more contests that kind of rewarded the amount of volume I would like to play. But this is a contest you can't. If you're gonna spend a couple hundred on a DFS site tomorrow, make it Yahoo, and that'll be the smartest return on investment possible in terms of expected value on your entries. So competing with 15,000 entries versus 100,000 on these other sites, that in itself is better. And the fact that even if you only had enough money to maybe run 5 lineups, other guys are only going to have 20 lineups instead of 150 lineups. So you also kind of feel a little bit better in that regard as well. And if you are a subscriber or a potential subscriber, remember the RunDFS.com VIP spreadsheet will have projections for all sites, including Yahoo. So you get to maybe spot differences in price points from Yahoo to other sites, percentage of salary. Maybe this is a great study tool to kind of discover how you might project their salary to work out, and how players are priced in terms of total salary on Yahoo versus other sites. So if I sort this column, which is percentage of salary on Yahoo versus other players, we'll go look at guys like Giannis Antetokounmpo, James Harden, Anthony Davis, and LeBron James. All these guys are 24% or more of a $200 salary cap, which is $48 to $53. If we compare that to FanDuel, it goes down to 17 to 18%. And then on DraftKings, it's 20 to 22, 23%. So while it's not that vast of a difference, it is still a little bit, right? A quarter of your your potential salary cap is still more than 20%. With that said, you can also cross-reference that, look at the value guys, and see what their value guys in terms of baseline projections here. Their min guys are 5%, 5.5%. And remember, min price on Yahoo is $10. So who are these guys on Yahoo that might be a much greater discount and a much greater value play than on other sites? And you can kind of pinch some pennies there. So 5% of your salary for a guy like Chris Boucher, Enes Kanter's 5.5%. Whereas on FanDuel, these guys are 7.3%, and on DraftKings, a guy like Kanter's 10.4%. So just kind of a quick brief way of how you guys can utilize the RunDFS.com VIP spreadsheet to kind of navigate all these different sites. A lot of you guys that have VIP subscriptions maybe didn't even know that Yahoo was supported in the projection sheets. And if you don't know, now you know. Anyway, that's a quick look at what the industry is offering for Christmas Day. There's going to be other slates throughout the day, afternoon slates, turbo slates, stuff like that. You're on your own there. But what we'll do it during this video is kind of look game by game here and kind of focus on FanDuel and DraftKings pricing, kind of decipher who we think might be good plays, better plays, and who might be some guys who might look to avoid. So let's get cranked up here. Game number 1, the Boston Celtics at the Toronto Raptors. This game has a 212.5 total, and the visiting Boston Celtics favored by 3 points. Project starting 5 for the Celtics: Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward, Jason Tatum, and Daniel Tice taking on Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, Patrick McCaw, OG Anunoby, Serge Ibaka. This game is going to be on ESPN. Marcus Smart has been ruled out of this game dealing with eyes, not just one, but eyes. Gordon Hayward, left foot soreness, is going to be probable. He has missed each of Boston's previous 3 contests, but is fully on track to return to action on Christmas Day. Semi Ojeleye will get bumped back to the bench, and Grant Williams will have his minutes reduced as well. So good news for Boston fans. Gordon Hayward back for Christmas Day. And Enes Kanter, if you guys aren't familiar with his situation, he kind of has a feud with the Turkish government. And, some countries have kind of considered him a terrorist. But the Canadian government and U.S. have decided that Enes Kanter will safely travel cross country from America to Canada to play this game and come back. So that's good to know that Enes Kanter will be available and he'll be safe. On the Raptors side, Raptors are still hurting really, really bad. They just came off a really tough stretch of 3 games and 4 nights, and they've been, very, very viable fantasy plays. But from top to bottom, we got a lot of notes for just about everyone on the team. But we'll start with Fred VanVleet. He came back maybe a little bit prematurely, got injured, but last game he did go out there and he did play quite a bit of minutes. He played 41 minutes against the Pacers on night 2 of a back-to-back, so that's a great sign. This is a guy that we know game to game could play 38 to 40 minutes. So it looks like he's going to be ready to go for this one. Norman Powell, probably expect him to continue to be out. Yes, Matt Thomas listed as inactive. Stanley Johnson, groin, was available last game against the Pacers. He had a 17-game layoff. How many minutes did he end up playing that game? He didn't play at all. All right, so he was just available, didn't play. Who else do we got in the notes here? Pascal Siakam, he's going to continue to be out. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson looks like he's going to be all right. Marcus Saul still going to be out, sidelined, so we should expect Serge Ibaka to continue to start here. And then guys like Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, Chris Boucher off of the bench. Going to take a swig of water. Bear with me. All right. Matchup-wise, well, we have a low total, and we got 2 teams that are pretty decent defensively. The Raptors, you might argue, are going to be struggling a little bit more than this Celtics team that appears to be as full strength as they probably ever have been this season. Defensive efficiency, the Celtics have the fourth best defensive efficiency, 101.4 points per 100 possessions allowed. And the Raptors have the second best defensive efficiency at 100.8. Again, missing Marcus All, missing Pascal Siakam. We're going to put a couple leaks in the armor there and, still assume that there's going to be exploitable opportunities for their defense. With that said, I don't think Serge Ibaka or OG Anunoby are any punks or anything like that. But where do we see any type of exploits on salary? Well, I think the Celtics kind of maybe Gordon Hayward at 6,300. If we saw 30-plus fantasy points from that, certainly would be in the conversation. Jason Tatum, Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown have had a really nice stretch. Staggered stretch, I'll say, especially Brown and Tatum in the past couple games without Gordon Hayward. So I guess we'll run a usage check here. But last couple games for Tatum, 67, 41, 37. And then Jaylen Brown, if you pull him up, you'll see his range of outcomes were pretty up and down as well. 34, 48, 40. So what we'll do here is we'll go to the on-off court tool at RotoWire. This is a free tool, I believe. We'll select Boston. And just for curiosity's sake, let's go ahead and put the whole starting five, or let's put starting at 4. We don't really care about the center spot, right? Let's put Gordon Hayward on. Let's put Jaylen Brown on. Let's put Jason Tatum on, and then lastly Kemba Walker all the way at the bottom, and we'll run that as so. And kind of see what it spits back because Gordon Hayward's absence and then return, guys like Semi Ojeleye are not going to go out there and kind of produce like what Gordon Hayward would do. So with Gordon Hayward on the court, Kemba Walker leads the team in usage, 25.1% usage rate, averaging at about a fantasy point per minute. Jason Tatum's averaging 1.2 fantasy points per minute. Brown over 1 fantasy point per minute on both sides. And Gordon Hayward at 1.1 fantasy point per minute. So you can really make the case that all of the Celtics have a spread out enough usage rate, averaging about 1 fantasy point per minute. If we can get each guy to 35 minutes, we can probably project each guy to give us around a 35 DKP floor, or at least around a 30 DKP floor. And if we look at my baseline projections here, I got Kemba at 39, I got Jaylen Brown at 31, Gordon Hayward at 32, almost 33, Jason Tatum at 36.6. So all of them, don't appear to be lineup killers. From a tournament standpoint, at all of these prices, I'm looking for 40. Maybe Hayward, I'd get away with 36, 38, you know what I'm saying? But from the rest of the guys, I'm really looking for 40 plus. I feel like Kemba Walker, to me, kind of profiles as a guy that seems like he could make or break this team if this team starts slumping. We kind of discuss who might have some tougher positional matchups. So maybe Kemba Walker would be somebody I target, but I don't think I'm going to get to oversaturation on exposure to any of these Celtics players. And what I mean by that is I'm a multi-entry person. For those of you on YouTube who are not familiar with me, mostly every slate I'll have anywhere from 20 to 50 to 100 to 150 lineups. And I like to play range of outcomes with ceiling. And we know that 40-plus fantasy points is a realistic range of outcomes for Kemba Walker. In his last 10 games, however, only 2 games that I think really shake up a tournament. 44 minutes, or 44 real points, not minutes, I don't know why I said minutes, in a 64 DKP performance against Indiana. Remember, we had some outs for that one. And then 52 fantasy points against Miami. So I don't mind, leaning on him if we think the matchup gets a little tougher. But I definitely think I'm going to have medium to low interest for most of the Celtics starters. I can see myself tier 3 in him and maybe having less than 20% of everyone. A guy I'm most curious with would be Enes Kanter, but I'm really not a giant fan of his price points on both FanDuel and DraftKings. But in the last couple games, we've been seeing Kanter get an opportunity at 20 minutes, and he's a guy that can make the most in terms of fantasy efficiency in minutes played. 24, 22, 21, 24 minutes his last 4 games. Every single one of those games have got us from 24 to 39 fantasy points. So at 5,200, that's a price point. I'm really looking for 30. So I do wish it was a little bit more economically friendly on DraftKings, but on FanDuel at 4,600, I could still get away with some Canner exposure. And maybe I just have a soft spot in my heart because Canner won me a $15,000 first place prize on FanDuel 2 years ago on Christmas by 2020ing on Joel Embiid. Hard to forget that, right? But I do like Canner quite a bit. And then just out of curiosity, because we've talked about his potential value on FanDuel, I am a little curious. What was Canner? Did we say he was on Yahoo in terms of salary? Cantor. Let me control F Cantor. Cantor was 5.5% at $11. So on Yahoo, Enes Kanter is $1 above minimum price. That's 5.5% of salary. Whereas on FanDuel, he's 7.7% essentially, and on DraftKings, he's 10.4%. So if you're really trying to gauge potential value from one side to the other, it looks like he could be the greatest value on Yahoo, especially considering Yahoo will value blocks and steals a little bit more. And Canner can get a block or two. And then DraftKings, he could just be an average play. So something to keep in mind for those of you guys double dipping. So Canner, yeah, I'll rank him as I'm interested on FanDuel, but I'm definitely down to play some Canner on Yahoo for their $10 baller. Like that a lot. On the Raptors side, Raptors are not unlike the Celtics in that their projected starting 5 has an extremely high predictive value in minutes played. Kyle Lowry in a neutral game is likely going to push 40 minutes. Same with Fred VanVleet. OG Anunoby, also a big minutes guy. And we're finding Serge Ibaka, even though Ibaka came from a bench role where he was getting about 25 minutes, he's kind of filling out the minutes quite a bit. 36 minutes against Washington, 42 minutes against Indiana. So it's good to know that he can go the distance in minutes played. I much prefer Serge Ibaka in some pace-up matchups. I've been a proponent of that for a long time. I think that's where you get the most out of Ibaka. You look at these last couple games, kind of neutral, except the Washington game. And in that game, we saw 40-plus fantasy points. Detroit, he did his thing against Detroit. But outside of that, at 7,300, I probably have to get a minimum of 40 fantasy points to feel like I got a good deal. So I'd be on the fence here in this matchup against the Celtics front court. But I would say that I'm still at least intrigued. I also would say that Canner could also take a hit in minutes played here if they decide to, I guess I want to say Ojale going to the bench. It's not going to be that much of a big deal unless Grant Williams is playing a lot of his minutes at the 4. But as long as Robert Williams is out, I'm fine with still taking a shot on Cantor. Cantor on Christmas, man, the narrative. But I am curious to see how the last couple centers against the Raptors have worked out. Miles Turner in 37 minutes that last game dropped 42.25 fantasy points. The game prior, Dwight Powell, 36.75 fantasy points in 31 minutes. Jan Mahinmi, 16 minutes, dropped 20.25 fantasy points. Andre Drummond, 38 minutes against this Raptors front court, dropped 52 fantasy points. And then Tristan Thompson in 33 minutes, dropped 32 fantasy points. So, is it fair to say that without Marc Gasol, who hasn't played since the Detroit game where he got injured, since that game, every center against the Raptors front court have been greater than a point per minute? Yes, it's fair to say that. So I love me some Serge Ibaka, but it does look like he is at least less strong defensively for the center position in terms of fantasy, at least. And I guess he's not defending the post as well as Marc Gasol. Remember the Raptors were one of the best at preventing points in the paint and guarding post points. So it definitely stands to reason that Ibaka is a downgrade. Does that mean I want to run to play Daniel Tice on DraftKings? Maybe not, but hey, at 3,900, he's a dual position eligible guy. Could we fill a need here? Does he have potential? Well, he dropped 27 fantasy points against Detroit, 26 fantasy points against the 76ers in 24 minutes. So if he can be more than a point per minute and not, get in extreme foul trouble, hey, maybe we could steal 25 fantasy points from him and kind of glue together some stronger lineups. It definitely looks like a sneaky spot to attack the Raptors front court, but that's why I'm a little bit more enamored by a guy like Enes Kanter, who I trust to be more of a point per minute guy, right? Even greater than a point per minute. So I'll use that to further justify playing Kanter on a site like Yahoo, or even FanDuel. But again, the DraftKings price, I don't feel like I'm getting a fantastic deal, but he does have 30-plus fantasy point potential. So not going to rule that out for him as well. Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry. I think VanVleet is 7K. I think there's still some room for him to grow. And I think he's a guy I'm more comfortable to take shots on just because of how many minutes is likely for him to play. 34, 41 minutes to 2 of his last 3 games. Before he got injured, we saw him play a lot of 40-minute games with and without Kyle Lowry. So as long as this game stays neutral and as long as VanVleet can kind of flirt with being a point per minute, if he gets 38 minutes, 40 fantasy points is right there at 7K. Definitely seems like a higher floor option. And if we go to the Team DVP tab at RunDFS.com, VIP spreadsheet, it's not going to be a plus-plus matchup, but no position for Boston is going to be a plus-plus matchup. So maybe at least the minutes will will his way there. And then OG Anunoby is 5,400 on DraftKings. He might be worth having exposure to just as a high-minute, cheap kind of guy. Sometimes you can bank on these high-minute guys who don't always deliver from a fantasy perspective. But I tell you what, his game log, I've got some keepers in here, man. 38, I'd take that. Again, Indiana's not the best example because the game went to extra innings. But 35, 29, 26. I'm getting a strong floor with a potential ceiling. Even a 47 DKP against Philadelphia, another tough defense, slow team. And earlier this season, he dropped just 20 fantasy points in 37 minutes played against Boston. But the minutes might be enough to bank on. He's one of those guys that could do just enough of everything that maybe I'd put him in as a 10%er. And if it falls into something that I need a bridge for, then I'll use it. Chris Boucher. Something to consider. I think on DraftKings, he's right there, a couple of 400 away from Enes Kanter. That it's hard to really feel the warm and fuzzies on that price point. But we do know individually he does have potential to be greater than a point per minute. He dropped 41 fantasy points against Dallas. That Dallas game script was a blowout at one time. Boucher was part of the mob crew that kind of came in and brought them back in it. And then the games surrounding that, 13 minutes against Washington, 14 minutes against Indiana. Both of those games were neutral all the way through and through. So it looks like Boucher is probably going to only benefit in case of a blowout or if someone maybe got in foul trouble or, God forbid, got hurt. So Boucher would just be a super risky, I think unnecessary risk on DraftKings for me, and then maybe worth a shot or two on FanDuel or Yahoo. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson is probably the guy you can bank on for more minutes. His production is just about as well as you can ask it to be. He's been point per minute all season, 34 fantasy points his last 2 games. Earlier this season, he did not play against Boston. With some comparable matchups to Boston. Anything in here? Nothing really. But at 5,300, I need probably 30 fantasy points to feel super satisfied for tournament upside. So, on DraftKings, he's a harder click. On FanDuel, definitely a little bit more intriguing option on FanDuel, in my opinion, going back to his game log, because the ways that he gets there, 3 blocks against Indiana, a steal here, 3 steals against Detroit. He does have stat stuffing ability, and he could fill up a couple steals, a couple blocks. Hey, he might be a dark horse to get you to a 20 stocks lineup, right? So I don't mind looking at him if I have to. Probably no one. Definitely no Terrence Davis for me. Probably. So it's probably just Aaron Schatz on the starting 5. Patrick McCaw. Do we have a comfort rating on him? I think a wide range of outcomes here. Probably nothing that I'm running to get exposure to. So I don't know. He seems like the price seems right. Might circle back to it if we have to throw it in the pool just to make it optimizer, give us exposures that we want, sure. But on the forefront, I'm just taking some. If I'm writing notes, I'm writing in pencil all the starters here. But I could also see a game script where, maybe this is just an ugly 30, 40 fantasy point in terms of ceiling. And then, low 30s as a floor. And certainly seems viable in today's temperature of DFS that we could get away with not loading up our lineups with low 30s, right? So let's move on to the next game for now. And if we have to go back to that, we will. But the next game looks like it could be a little bit more fantasy friendly. It's the Milwaukee Bucks at the Philadelphia 76ers. Your projected starting five for the Bucks: Dante DiVincenzo, Wesley Matthews, Chris Middleton, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Brook Lopez taking on Ben Simmons, Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris, Al Horford, and Joel Embiid. This game, I think because of pace, should be a little bit more fantasy friendly. And versus the first game that we talked about, we're already looking at an increased total at 220 points for the OU for now, with a 2.5 point spread in favor of the visiting Milwaukee Bucks. Bucks look like the team to beat, particularly in the Eastern Conference, but in the not too distant history, we've seen blowout wins over the Clippers. We've seen them kind of work the Lakers, but then of course we see them fall asleep against the Mavericks. So, but I think until further notice, the Bucks are the team to beat in the league, but probably at least the Eastern Conference. So, a statement game here for Philly. If they come out fully healthy and there's no squirrely stuff going on with Embiid and whatnot, it doesn't look like there is, then we should expect a really fun one. Starting with the Bucks. Dante DiVincenzo is 5,100 on FanDuel, 5,300 on DraftKings. In the absence of Eric Bledsoe, I think we've been seeing a strong diet of low to mid 20s. In that Dallas game, we did see 38 fantasy points. And 30 is a range of outcome. 30, I don't think breaks the bank at 5,300, but if a couple of guys just hit you that value point that you're looking for, that's fine. DiVincenzo could certainly be an option here. Wesley Matthews, I rarely ever get out of bed to play Wesley Matthews. Chris Middleton's probably cheap enough on both sides to throw in my back pocket, hoping for mid-30s. Giannis Antetokounmpo, of course, the big boy of the slate here, and then Brook Lopez. So Giannis Antetokounmpo, I think, is going to be the most intriguing option. More often than not, the problem with Giannis Antetokounmpo for daily fantasy isn't his production. It's more or less the team's production blowing other teams out. You'll see it in his game log. I mean, they kind of beat up the Pacers here. He did get 31 minutes there, and he got 63 fantasy points. But frustratingly, when you roster him, they have a knack for blowing teams out. So if you do think that the Sixers could match up with the Bucks here and be a much better matchup than some of these other teams, and you can get 35 plus minutes out of Giannis Antetokounmpo, then Giannis should certainly be somebody that you consider to be heavy on. I really think so. While I will say the Sixers have more length than most to maybe defend Giannis, like a Tobias Harris, like an Al Horford, I still don't think that I'm running from those guys for the freak that Giannis Antetokounmpo is. And Giannis has really flexed his muscles from behind the arc lately, so he's just a matchup nightmare. So give me Giannis Antetokounmpo quite a bit. If you guys are like me, you kind of anticipate this game being much closer. And a 2.5 point spread really does kind of suggest that the game should play really, really close. I want to show you guys something cool from the on-off court tool at NBA or at RotoWire. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Giannis Antetokounmpo on. I'm going to take Eric Bledsoe off. And we're going to run that as is. And I'm going to show you the type of production Giannis is doing for fantasy with plenty of minutes of sample size. Is such an incredible number that it's just hard to not want to roster Giannis liberally. 414.4 minutes of sample size this season, 30 games of Giannis Antetokounmpo on the court while Bledsoe was off the court. That's a 39.3% usage rate, averaging 2 fantasy points per minute on both sites. 2 fantasy points per minute. So if we project this game to stay close and we can get 34, 35 minutes, basic math could give us a 70-point score from Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I think it makes all the sense in the world. I mean, just looking at this game log, where are games that we're getting near 34, 35 minutes? Well, 34 minutes against Dallas, 76, 35 minutes against Orlando, 68. So it's definitely in the game log. You guys don't have to go too far to do some math in your head here. It's there. So here we are again. Eric Bledsoe out. Giannis in. It's a tight game. So Giannis Antetokounmpo absolutely going to be somebody that I'm super, super high on today to kind of show out on Christmas. Out there on ABC. Nice little afternoon Christmas game. Like him a lot. Who are some supplementary plays we might be able to get behind for the Bucks? Well, I'm going to talk about Brook Lopez first of all. Now, Brook Lopez, not somebody I'm going to reach too far for. But I kind of mentioned at the top of the video, hey, Brook Lopez is the guy that can get you some blocks to kind of be a player in that blocks or steal challenge that DraftKings has. And we've seen games in the not too distant recent history, 7 blocks, 3 blocks. The guy actually does get some blocks. He's a 7-footer now. Doesn't get you a whole lot of rebounds, but he'll chuck. And I kind of like guys like him against guys like Joel Embiid because they can score in more ways than one. They don't just have to be from the post. Matter of fact, a large amount of Brook Lopez's shots are going to be from behind the arc. 6 shots from 3 against Indiana. 8 from 3 against New York. So I like that quite a bit. And I'm kind of curious here. Brook Lopez against Joel Embiid. What do we got? So let's go to StatMuse. Brook Lopez, DKP by game log versus Joel Embiid. Let's go last 10 games. I don't know if there's 10 games of sample size, but I'm just curious here. 25, 30, 30, 19, 13. So the 230s are interesting at 5K. That would be 6x on the dot. We'd live with that. Could we turn Brook Lopez into a greater value on maybe Yahoo? Well, let's look at him. Control F, Brook Lopez. 28 minutes was my soft minute projection for him. On Yahoo, he is $16. That's 8% of your salary. Whereas on DraftKings, he's 10%. So, while, it is a little bit more discount, it's not as much. But remember, being a little bit cheaper and getting a little bit more rewarded for your blocks and steals, it could just squeeze that much more juice out of Brook Lopez to kind of make him a play. With that said, on a normal day, I got at least 11-man rotation for the Milwaukee Bucks with double-digit minute projections. That doesn't settle too well with me. So I'm going to stay pretty focused on the high-minute guys, the guys that I feel the best about projecting their minutes. I think Chris Middleton was a good shot at 30-plus fantasy points, and then Giannis Antetokounmpo, of course, my favorite play here. George Hill would be the other guy if I had to dumpster dive just a little bit. You can make a revenge narrative for Kyle Korver if you want to, or Hassan Ilyasova, sure. But George Hill, probably the other guy I could see being a problem in tournaments. I think he's a wide range of outcome, very volatile player. But in this game log, you're seeing some fruitfulness for tournaments. 37.25 DKP against Indiana, 27.25 against the Lakers, 28. So we'll take any of that. So if you're telling me in the last 10 games, 30% of the time, it was a strong play for tournaments, I'm in. 4,300, maybe a little bit higher than I wanted, just a little bit, because I am looking for the north side of 30. And if you look at that Indiana game, he had 9 rebounds. I'm probably never expecting that again for the rest of the season. But if this game stays close, you can see a scenario where George Hill is the veteran point guard out there. Maybe you put DiVincenzo to the sideline just a little bit and let the veteran George Hill go out there and kind of skate by a little bit more. So it would be a very low percentage shot if I took the shot at all. And again, out of curiosity, I'm kind of wondering where George Hill ranks on Yahoo in terms of potential value. So Control F, George Hill. On Yahoo, George Hill he's $12, so he's 6%. So I don't think he's as he's not a must, right? He's not a must, but he's a stocking stuffer. We're going game by game here, trying to take notes here. All right, let's talk about the Philadelphia 76ers. This is a team kind of like the Celtics and the Raptors, where all the starters we can project for about 30 minutes, some of them to 35 minutes, and feel comfortable knowing that we'll probably get 30-plus minutes from them. So because of that, they're all in play on a 5-game slate in what will be one of the faster pace. Just looking forward just a little bit here. The Clippers and the Lakers probably going to be a neutral to down pace. The Pelicans at Nuggets is interesting. Nuggets will play down. It's in the altitude. Pelicans, of course, amongst the fastest teams in the league. So you could say that this could be the second fastest game on the slate, which would increase some potential upside for some of the Sixers players here. When fully healthy, the Bucks are one of the hardest teams in basketball to score on in the paint. If we go to that team stats tab in the RunDFS.com VIP spreadsheet and go to points in the paint allowed, Milwaukee Bucks actually give up the fewest points in the paint in the NBA. So for that reason, I have to ask myself, who scores the most points in the paint for the Philadelphia 76ers? Well, Ben Simmons has made, 2 threes in his career? I'm thinking he's going to be on the short list. So before I write him off, let's see what kind of history he has versus the Bucks last 10 games, and see if there's any reason to think otherwise. Well, we've got 150 here. Everything else is 43 or less. That 50 was last season. Now, there was a point recently where the Bucks were pretty porous against bigs, but in this game, he only had 14 real points. It was the triple-double that got him there. 13 rebounds, 11 assists. He was still minus 10 there. I don't know if Embiid was in or out that game. But I do think it kind of stands to reason that if Embiid is going to be in, if everyone's going to be in, unless you're really banking on a triple-double, hey, he just had a triple-double in his last game. It's very possible, 8,100. Maybe he's somebody I might project to be a little bit lower on just because of his inability to score in the paint. But I will say, unlike some other point guards, his ability to make up the difference in other peripheral numbers, he's averaging over 2 steals a game. Maybe I'm being a little too harsh on him here at 8,100. I'm just looking for maybe 45 fantasy points or greater. But could I get 50? What is the range of outcomes on 50 here? 60 fantasy points against the Pistons. The Pistons in that game were without everybody in terms of guards, right? And then there's a 55 against New Orleans, a very fast pace, a 56 against Cleveland. Joel Embiid did not play that game. Man, I'm curious. You guys think Simmons is playable here? I think for the sake of 5 games, knowing that, this could be a lower scoring slate just based on all the games that are involved, I'd probably have to still have Ben Simmons in the pool, even though I do think we might be able to restrict his potential upside. But to go on that stocks challenge that DraftKings is doing for their Millie Maker, this is a guy that does get steals at a high volume, 4 steals against Washington, 3 against Dallas, 2 Miami. There's a lot of 2-3 steal games here for him, and he does have the length to get some blocks. So Ben Simmons might be the perfect archetype of player to kind of target if you're really trying to get a part of that side pot, which, by the way, if you're late or you skipped the plug, the challenge was to get 20 blocks and steals in your DraftKings lineup, and you'd split, I believe it was 20K. So, sure, he would make the case for that. Josh Richardson, 6,200 on DraftKings. This is a guy that I don't ever play a lot of unless somebody's out, and even then I don't go crazy with it. I could say maybe a pace-up spot could draw some more blocks and steals from him because he is a strong defensive type of player. I'm not overly invested here, but I'll tell you what, he is taking a little bit more shots than I thought he was. Double-digit shot attempts in 3 of his last 5, 6, 7 games, or 5 of his last 6 games. The shot volume is higher than I give it credit for. The minutes of there, this might be one of those perfect tournament plays that just gets hot. His shots from behind the arc, remember, if we go to that team stats tab, the Bucks allowing the fewest points in the paint, but conversely, the Bucks are allowing the most points via the 3-ball. If the Bucks do a good job at limiting Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, guys like Al Horford, maybe Tobias and Josh Richardson start chucking some more threes. J. Rich 4, 5, 10 3-point attempts in his last couple games. Hey man, maybe we can game script him into being one of those sneaky tournament plays that kind of get you there. Would be an uncomfortable click to go overboard on, but I definitely think we can use logic and stats to kind of support it. It was the last couple shooting guards against the Bucks. Malcolm Brogdon, I guess he was more of a point guard. R.J. Barrett had 29.75 DKP in 34 minutes. KCP 26 and 35. That's a tough one to consider. Tim Hardaway Jr. 10 and 25. Colin Sexton 16 and 29. So it's not like shooting guards have specifically done better, but it might be a reason to look at him. But like I said, also a reason to look at a guy like Tobias Harris and or a guy like Al Horford. I think Tobias Harris might switch off of Giannis here and there with Horford. Tobias Harris had 21 shot attempts in that revenge game against the Pistons. We know he'll chuck some threes if he has to. 6,700. I'd love to get as close to 40 fantasy points as I could for tournament juiceness. And he's done that more than maybe we think in his last 10. I'll also say there's a couple games without a Horford, maybe without an Embiid to give him a plus. But I wouldn't write him off here. I think the pace here, maybe we can, juice up some of these peripherals. I think on paper, individually, each Sixer doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies. But I think as we look at the big picture of this slate, in terms of pace and total narrative, if you want, at home on TV, I definitely think it feels like a couple of these Sixers will have to come through and play big. Al Horford, 6K on the dot. We know he can be a pretty versatile player for the Sixers. We haven't seen that big game from him in a while, and I don't know that it's coming. But again, if we're looking for someone that maybe chucks a couple extra threes because of the matchup, sure, we look his way. I think he's probably my least favorite Sixer of the starting five. And then Joel Embiid, interesting here. We've been seeing Giannis Antetokounmpo talk a little bit more smack in games, and there's been a couple of games that get a little testy. The Pistons game, Blake Griffin, Giannis kind of had a pull apart. Giannis, you guys seen the clip when he was draining them threes against the Lakers. There's a pretty explicit clip of him mimicking a crown on his head, saying, "I'm the effing king now," or "my effing crown now," something like that. And now you put him back on truly national television on ABC. Against a guy like Embiid, who definitely likes to stir the pot there. So might get a little testy, but hey, that's the beauty of it. Let's run Joel Embiid's numbers against the Bucks in recent history. 84, what? 78, 70. Holy crap. Yeah, those are good numbers. 37 minutes, 36 minutes. Those are all really, really good numbers. The Bucks are pretty much the exact same team from last year, so that's all very intriguing numbers. Let's see if we can put that directly versus Brook Lopez in his career, last 10 games. Dude, holy cow! Oh my God, are you kidding me, dude? Oh man, that's actually insane. In 1, 2, 3, 4, in his last 5 games against Brook Lopez, he has scored 60 or greater fantasy points. Boy, that sure seems like something I'd want a piece of. Oh my goodness. So yeah, I guess we're playing some Joel Embiid today. Embiid comes to us at 9,800 on DraftKings, 99 on FanDuel. Certainly wouldn't matter what his price point is. Just out of curiosity though, where is he at on Yahoo? Yahoo, he is $41 compared to guys like Harden being 55. So $41 is 20% of your salary. We compare that to FanDuel, he's 16% of your salary, and on DraftKings he's 19.6% of your salary. So a little bit higher vested, but if he can even come close to what he's done in his last 6 games against Joel Embiid, that'd be worth it. Matter of fact, what is this? 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In 6 of his last 7 games, he's 58 or greater. What was that 34? 34 came in 24 minutes against the Nets. So he still was far greater than a point per minute. Holy goodness. My goodness, man. He really does get to Brooks. So I'm definitely going to be buying into that one quite a bit. Embiid on every site. Could it be a tier 1 for the slate? I think it's possible. I think it very much so possible. I saw projected him at 33 minutes. The algorithm spit back over 50 fantasy points. I take over 50 under 10K all day long, all day strong. So welcome to the pool. And then, yeah, so if you wanted to dabble Ben Simmons, sure. Tobias Harris and Horford would be very small tier 3 options for me. I think so. And then Joel Embiid, I think, has the benefit of this matchup that he's really done well in. So give me Joel Embiid for sure. He's probably my favorite play so far on the slate. And then we'll run it back with Giannis. If we put Giannis and Embiid, run them against each other, we've got an average of just under 5K left. I love the correlation start of this lineup. And then just for the heck of it, how has Giannis Antetokounmpo DKP by game log versus 76ers last 10 games? How has he done against the Sixers? 83, 91, 81 his last 3 games. So this is all versus Embiid. Like, those last 3 games for Embiid were April 4th, March 17th, October 24th, 81, 91, 83. All 3 of those games Embiid played, right? April 4th, 17th, 24th. So these guys basically dueled for like 150-plus fantasy points in each of the last 3 games. So I have no problem with chasing that, man. Sometimes in DFS you don't want to chase stuff, but, man, multiple games in a row, I'm talking 3, I'll be a buyer as I sip some water. Let's check out the next game. I think the next game might be the game we get some value to fit in some of those Embiid and Giannis lines. It's the Rockets at the Warriors. Second game of the ABC doubleheader. Project starting 5 for the Rockets: Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Daniel House, PJ Tucker, Clint Capella, taking on D'Angelo Russell, Damian Lee, Glenn Robinson III, Draymond Green, and Willie Cauley-Stein. 226.5 the total for this one. The visiting Houston Rockets favored by double-digit fantasy points. Now, I'm certainly not a proponent of overblowing narratives and overblowing certain games, but I do want to say that just because it's a double-digit point spread on today's slate doesn't mean I'm going to avoid potential studs here, because I do think on Christmas, they'll go out there and the stars will shine a little brighter, and especially teams like the Rockets blowing out the Warriors. I think we saw some sound bites from Harden earlier this season that kind of alluded to some joy from doing that. Russell Westbrook is under 9K on DraftKings. That certainly feels like an exploitable price point. Could we get 50 plus out of him? Absolutely. 47, 56, 60, 53 in his last 4 games. In his last 10, there's very few failure spots in terms of what we take at 8,900 from him. So certainly he would be at least a tier 2 option for me when I start writing my player pool. James Harden could be the highest scorer on the slate. So far, I think I might be a little bit more enamored with a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo. But absolutely, James Harden. I mean, I don't have to pull up nothing to justify James Harden. He could drop 60, 70 fantasy points. I think in this in the scheme of this slate, James Harden has to be the highest scoring player, first of all, like, no matter what. So if you played him, just know, like, you're playing him over Giannis, and vice versa. If you're playing Giannis Antetokounmpo, he probably has to outscore James Harden unless you found a way to fit them both. So that's basically the main thing you have to kind of absorb. So, like, if James Harden dropped 65 today, but Giannis did one of those 80s, 90s that he did in his last 3 games against the Sixers, then you might be stuck out. And then if James Harden did one of those games where he drops 80, 90 on national television, and then drops 60 real points or something like that, then and Giannis maybe got in foul trouble. So it's all a range of outcomes. It's all relative. So I'm not going to break my back trying to go for or against James Harden. He'll be in the pool, and I'll kind of be a sucker for range of outcomes. I would be very curious to see how ownership projections pre-flop lay out in terms of Harden versus Giannis, because I do think if one was much more than the other, that would create some leverage opportunities, because it certainly feels like a casual player could roll up to these games and say, oh, Harden has the higher total, the higher pace, the better matchup, right? Philly is on paper a tougher matchup, a good defensive efficiency team, a slow pace. So It definitely feels like the casual check boxes would be on the surface more so favorable to James Harden than a guy like Giannis. So unless you went back at Giannis's game logs against the Sixers, there's a reason to maybe like Harden here. And I'm not anti Harden here. Dude's averaging almost 40 points a game. That's ridiculous. I'm just saying from a leverage game theory standpoint versus the field. And then also Clint Capella. Those are like the big three that I always target from the Rockets: Westbrook, Harden, Capella. And I'll do the same today. Westbrook definitely would be a tier 2 for me at this price point, meaning I would want at least maybe in 100 lineups, I'd probably want at least 40% today on a 5-game slate of Westbrook, just because I do think at this price point, the range of outcomes for juice is super, super high. Golden State allowing the second most fantasy points per game on this slate to opposing point guards. Great spot for Westbrook to give us a triple-double. Heck, you might even have Westbrook and Harden both try to triple-double as some wonky Christmas narrative, right? So there's that. Clint Capella, 7,500. Big range of outcomes for him to succeed at this price point. The Golden State Warriors are allowing the 4th most fantasy points per game on this slate, and it's not that far behind teams like Milwaukee, Denver, and New Orleans. So certainly would be in play for me. I'm looking for the north side of 40 fantasy points. He had 20 fantasy points in the first quarter against Sacramento, ended up playing 41 minutes, and still didn't break 40 fantasy points, but the triple-double potential is there. The block potential is certainly there. Where's Golden State on blocks allowed? Golden State are allowing 5.6 blocks allowed per game. So, there's some room for potential defensive peripherals there for Clint Capella. And then I also think stuff that hindered Capella that game. One was the fact that PJ Tucker had 10 rebounds that game and 3 steals. Maybe a couple of those rebounds go to Capella. He also played 40 minutes, so I don't mind that. Speaking of PJ Tucker, if I go to the or not PJ Tucker, but speaking of the Rockets value, if I go to the RunDFS.com VIP spreadsheet and go to my value projection sheet, just kind of see who the baseline projections spit out as top value plays for DraftKings in terms of loose options. Hey, Daniel House playing alongside PJ Tucker. He's 3,600 on DraftKings. He's against the Warriors in this matchup. He is certainly a bridge type option at a dual position eligible player on DraftKings, meaning I can play him in 1, 2, 3, 4 spots to really be a versatile strand of glue. 32 minutes against Sacramento. Doesn't do a whole lot. Maybe you get lucky with double-digit shot attempts, but there's going to be a lot of shots from downtown. Maybe get the 3-point bonus there. And then every now and then we'll get a couple more peripherals than not. So at 3,600, could we get to 24 fantasy points to feel like a great spot in tournaments? Normally, it's not something I'm running to, but hey, we pace up here against the Warriors. A much more porous defense in the Warriors. You look at the last 10 games for the Rockets. It's not been a bunch of high pace type of games. Where are the Warriors at on team pace this season? If we go to that team stats tab in the RunDFS.com VIP spreadsheet, Golden State Warriors have been they've actually been a little bit below league average, but still average. All right. So I'm taking note of House, at least on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he is $1,000 more expensive than his DraftKings counterpart. And then what's he looking like on Yahoo? So on Yahoo, he is $10. Bare bones min. So it becomes an option over there, right? I think the way Yahoo's set up here from just like looking at these top price guys, looking at the top here, James Harden, Giannis Antetokounmpo, AD, LeBron, Joel Embiid. All these guys feel more expensive because of the small salary, but I think there's a lot more punts that are down there that just kind of evens things out. I play a lot of Yahoo for NFL, and it's the same for NFL. There's always some egregiously low price, $12 and less guys. So, well, House sounds good. I might have to really fine tooth comb some of the value options over there on Yahoo before I overcommit, right? Off the bench here, Ben McLemore, $3,700, $100 more than Daniel House. I'm a little bit intrigued with him for tournaments. I do think this is the type of porous matchup that could bring out the best in him. I want him to get back to double-digit shot attempts, 30-minute Ben McLemore, and I think the more minutes House gets, the less minutes McLemore gets. But if we do play into this double-digit point spread, which the Rockets haven't been blowing teams out, guys. But if we do get into double-digit point territory and maybe that last end of the fourth quarter gets a little lopsided and mop-up duty, Ben McLemore does have mid to high 20 DKP point potential, 26 against San Antonio, almost 25 against Orlando, 29, 32, and 40. That 40 was against Toronto, and I'm pretty sure House was out that game, and I think that's the game James Harden took like 11 shots. So a very anomalic performance there. But you get what I'm saying. Like, there isn't a 0% some range of outcomes for him to pay off that price tag. So it's just a loose bit of interest there. And then we run it back with the Warriors. I think D'Angelo Russell at 7,400. That I don't do ownership projections, but I feel like that's got to be one of the highest owned guys so far. Looking through, talking out loud on this slate. Just really cheap. Matchup wise, Houston's not giving up a lot to point guards per se, but we know that Draymond could be a ball handler there. We know D-Russ is just gonna run around screens, shoot shots, and if he does catch some of that Harden defense, the Rockets do allow the most fantasy points per game to opposing shooting guards. So depending on how you kind of foresee this game playing out and where D'Angelo Russell's involvement goes, I just don't think 7,400 is a price that's going to scare me away no matter what, right? Looking at his last couple games here, one of the things I wanted to be most confident with was minutes played. Because in his first couple games back, we had seen less than 28 minutes, and I was starting to worry about his potential unspoken minute restriction. Like, they kind of came out and said Draymond was on, but it looks like we're good to go. 33, 32, 33 minutes his last 3 games. Each one of those games, the north side of 40 fantasy points. It's definitely what I need to start with for 7,400, but this matchup will be pace up. If he catches some of that Harden defense, he should be all right. And the fact that he just might take 20 shots to begin with is a great start for me to be very much so interested in D'Angelo Russell, who I do think has 50-plus point fantasy point potential like we saw in that Knicks game. So if you think this game could kind of shoot out a little bit, and you think this game could be the highest scoring game on the slate, which Vegas currently has the total as the highest game on the slate, certainly a spot for me to be very much interested in D-Russ. Kai Bowman was demoted to the G League again today. In that last game, he was called up as a reserve. I think Glenn Robinson missed, so they just had that extra body available if needed. But it looks like he's back down, so it's not like he's going to be there to vulture some minutes away. Damian Lee just looks like this little piece of him in the starting lineup is real, and it's going to be what the Warriors want going forward. Last game got a little bit of foul trouble, 5 fouls, 28 minutes, but 28, 35, 25, 34 minutes. So that's strong minute opportunity, and each one of those games, 20-plus fantasy points, and all but one of them giving me 26 or more fantasy points. Now, at 5,400, that's nothing special. But let's talk about matchup here. The matchup here is a lot stronger than some of these recent games. And by stronger, I mean it's the best. 45.2 fantasy points per game, the most on this slate per game. I think it's the most in the league. And then they're right up there for small forwards as well. So even if they kind of get wonky with their guard sets, Damian Lee projects really well. I think he's going to project better on FanDuel and Yahoo. So I think this is another great opportunity to go look at that value projection sheet and compare price points here. So Damian Lee, he's going to be 10.8% of your DraftKings salary. He's going to be 7.3% of your FanDuel salary. And over there on Yahoo.com, he's bare bones min price to be 5%. So this guy looks like he's going to profile as a much, much better Yahoo play. Is he at the top? He's third on the baseline projections in terms of potential value. So definitely liking some Damian Lee quite a bit. Glenn Robinson is an option. I'm a little less warm and fuzzy on Glenn Robinson when it comes to this starting 5 for the Warriors. I typed in Alec Burks because I'm about to talk about Alec Burks, but I screwed up, right? Glenn Robinson, last couple games, 28, 30, 24 minutes. His range of outcomes, I feel like, is going to give you a much lower ceiling than some of these other guys for points per dollar. He has 4,400, so maybe there's that. Last game against Houston, he dropped 30 fantasy points. D'Angelo Russell didn't play that one. I feel like with Russell back, with Draymond in, Glenn Robinson is going to be more of a filler option. Wouldn't eliminate him just because he's part of this game, but it wouldn't be somebody I go for. I got him for 22 fantasy points. She could certainly live without that. Draymond Green, 6,100 on DraftKings, 6,500 on FanDuel. We pull up that DVP tab. The Rockets are allowing by far the most fantasy points per game to opposing power forwards here. His supposed 25-minute restriction looks like it's not a thing anymore. Last couple games, 33, 31, 29. Last game against Houston, he didn't play. So I do think, on Christmas, on TV, he's a guy that we can shake the lineups up a little bit with, and maybe get the north side 30 fantasy points, and maybe, just maybe, we can get something like this, a 56 DKP against New York, and maybe even sneak to high 30s, a 40 fantasy point game. So as much as I hate to do it, I definitely will be rostering some Draymond Green. Willie Cauley-Stein a little bit harder to love because he's still on this minute restriction, but I do like the price point. I do. He got 30 minutes against Minnesota, 28 minutes against New Orleans, 30 minutes against Sac. That's a good sign. It is. He could be a really cheap 30. 30 fantasy points in 2 of those 4 games with those minutes. 19 minutes last game, 12 fantasy points. The Rockets are allowing their mid pack. I'll tell you what. I have to do some more digging. If you guys know anything more about the minute cap just not being a thing, I don't know if Steve Kerr's officially denounced it, but at 24 minutes, I could be a buyer at 4,200, but at 30 minutes at 4,200, I could definitely be a buyer. So, yeah. I got him soft projected at 25 DKP on both sites. Is he any more of a great value on Yahoo? He is $16 on Yahoo, 8%. So he's actually more of your salary on Yahoo than on FanDuel, and just about the same as DraftKings. So maybe he's not as great of a value over there, but he's very interesting to me if he's going to get 30 minutes. Willie Cauley-Stein's a guy, when he was featured on the Kings, that I would play probably at 7K in this matchup. So those minutes would be huge. Those few extra minutes would be huge. All right, let's look at this bench here. The main guy I want to talk about off of the bench for Golden State is Alec Burks. This guy has been one of the most consistent plays for me. I play him just about every slate the Warriors are on, whether he's starting or off the bench. But even right now, it seems like off the bench, he's even better of a play. 40-plus fantasy points the last 2 games. It's going to be a great pace-up spot. He was part of that team in the last game against Houston, dropped almost 50 fantasy points. Again, taper your expectations now that D'Angelo Russell, Draymond Green are in the mix. Alec Burks, absolutely a surefire bet for nearly 30-plus fantasy points pretty much every game. You look at his last 10 games, there's 1, 2, 3 games in his last 10. That's a 30% range of outcome where he didn't get you 30-plus DKP. And for some reason, he's only 5,600. And I hate to keep going back to this, but I'm really curious because I'm going to play quite a bit of Yahoo. What's his Yahoo price looking like? Alec Burks is 8.5% on Yahoo is $17, which compared to FanDuel, he's 9.5%. On DraftKings, is 11.2%. So again, it looks like he projects like a better Yahoo play. So I'm an investor. I'm involved. I'm here. I'm a buyer. So give me Burks. So short list for the Warriors: D. Russ, Draymond, Alec Burks, and then if I start feeling a little bit more comfortable on Willie Cauley-Stein, I could be in that. Oh, and Damian Lee. I think Damian Lee really great on FanDuel. On DraftKings at 5,400. I mean, he's almost the same price as Alec Burks. I probably just play Alec Burks there. Yeah, I probably just play Alec Burks there. But oof. Lee's definitely in play for me on FanDuel, and then Yahoo as well. Yahoo looks like an extremely great value play, so I'm in on that. And then lastly, there's 1 game left. No, there's 2 games left. All right, next game, Los Angeles Lakers hosting the Los Angeles Clippers. Clippers on the road here, going all the way to the Staples Center to play the Lakers. I do that joke every time. 222.5 is our total. 2-point spread in favor of the home team. Los Angeles Lakers are projected starting five for the Clippers: Patrick Beverley, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Mo. How could you be so heartless? Ivica Zubac taking on LeBron James, Avery Bradley, Danny Green, Anthony Davis, and JaVale McGee. Tragic Brunson, 222.5 is our total, as I stated from the Department of Redundancy Department. Let's talk about the Lakers. So first of all, there was some questions on the availability of LeBron James and Anthony Davis, but reports came out that they had an impromptu practice. So I don't know if they all got together for Christmas and said, "Whoa, is that a basketball? Yo, is that a hoop? Yo, is that another hoop? Yo, let's do this." But because of that, Anthony Davis practice and LeBron James practice in full, so now they are both expected to play. Davis tweaked his right knee on Sunday and was listed as questionable on the initial injury report for Christmas Day's matchup with Kawhi and the Clips. However, it appears that he's full on ready to go. And then LeBron James was dealing with a thoracic muscle. Am I saying that right? Any doctors in the comments below, let me know. He practiced fully. He's ready to go. He sat out for the first time all season on Sunday, and he was listed as questionable until now. So here we are, Christmas Day. With that said, the Clippers do have one injury to note, and that's Patrick Beverley. He's dealing with a sore right groin. He did practice on full on Tuesday. It looks like he will be ready to go for Christmas Day, but kind of keep an eye on him because it did come out as questionable. With that said, here we go. This game should be one of the more fun, competitive games. The Battle of Los Angeles. And a lot of people, including myself, think this could be a preview of the Western Conference Finals with a lot of heavy hitters, a lot of firepower, and a lot of love for both sides. We'll start with the Clipper side, the road team. If you get to Patrick Beverley, I think 20 to 30 fantasy points is kind of the window more often than not. Yeah, there's some fake games where Beverley goes up. He gets a couple more steals. Beverley kind of scares me going against a team that has more than one stud, because his job is to be the pit bull, to bark at, getting in the feelings of LeBron, in the feelings of AD, and because of that, it gets into a lot of foul trouble. An example is he's averaging a foul out per game against the Rockets in 3 games. Each game he fouled out. So I definitely feel like, by design, foul trouble could be in his immediate future. So I'll be very low, if at all, on Beverley because of that. At 5K on DraftKings, I don't feel like it's that big of a risk. On FanDuel at 4,600, maybe there's a little bit more thought going into yes or no behind him, especially because I don't feel like we've really identified a ton of strong point guard plays. Maybe Westbrook, we'll get to Jamal. Yeah, maybe FanDuel's a little bit lighter that you consider it. It really is light. Well, FanDuel's really tough looking at it now. So maybe there's that. Like Steph Curry at 3,500. Aww. All right, so maybe on FanDuel it's not the easiest click X on, but on DraftKings I don't feel like I'm going to push the issue there. Paul George is under 8K on DraftKings, 8K on FanDuel. If you're like me, you're currently, you're going game by game. You're very enamored with the thought of getting Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid involved in your lineups. And that's going to be really hard to fit in some of these 8K guys. Maybe you find a couple 3K guys or 4K guys, Damian Lee, guys like that, kind of make things a little bit easier. But it's going to be hard if you do want to go double Embiid, double Giannis lineups. It's going to be hard to get some of this 8 to 9K juice. So just kind of keep that in mind. Because, like I said, Paul George, 8K on FanDuel, 7,900 on DraftKings. This is a guy that's been super efficient with his minutes all season long. Outside of the last 2 games, just 26 minutes against San Antonio, 34 minutes against OKC, revenge game there. He did poorly. But prior to that, there's a lot of point per minute or greater, and a lot of neutral games bring out 40 to 50 to 60 plus fantasy points from him. Some of these games without Kawhi, some of these games without Lou Williams, and so on and so forth. But at this price point, I'd definitely be a buyer at probably a low tier 2 exposure. We'll see if I can move it up or down. Kawhi Leonard, sub 9K on DraftKings, 9K on the dot on FanDuel. Certainly another guy that's right there in play with 40, 50, 60 point potential. He dropped 55 against San Antonio in less than 30 minutes. Have they played the Lakers yet? They have, right? Yeah, against the Lakers earlier this season, he dropped 48.5. I do believe Paul George was out for that game, but you guys know Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, they got a little bit of a history in terms of big, meaningful games. Kawhi Leonard, DKP by game log versus LeBron James, last 10 games. We're going to use StatMuse.com to answer this question. Just kind of see historically how he's done. We've got one game in his last 6 less than 46 fantasy points. It looks like a couple of these might be playoff series. Yeah, it is. So I don't want to overreact to these 2 playoff games. No, it's not playoff series. It's all just regular basketball games, right? 121, unless there was an injury gap between. Maybe. Anyway, he does have a enough success for LeBron. We only see one game where he's really obliterated 50 fantasy points, which to break a slate we would need that. But nonetheless, he's a strong play and a strong option. Baseline projection put him at 40 fantasy points. I gotta say, I think this total really opened up really high at 222.5. Both teams' offensive efficiency is pretty high. But if we look at pace, where are the Lakers at pace and where are the Clippers at pace? Lakers are about neutral, league average. Clippers are top 10 in pace. And if we go to defensive efficiency, the Lakers are 6th or 5th, 101.9 points per 100 possessions. The Clippers not too far behind at 103.2. I think the Clippers' defensive efficiency has a little bit of noise holding them back because they've had so many games without either a Paul George or a Kawhi Leonard or a Patrick Beverly, stuff like that. So whereas you get, where are we at, 20, 30 games, you get full games with all those guys, their defensive efficiency probably goes up to top 5. So I'm just going to say loosely, we got 2 top 6 defenses going at it today. Do I think the Clippers are better than any of these defenses? Okay, we'll just go. At the worst, there's 2 top 10 defenses going at it. So they think that this game is going to be a 220 plus total. Both teams, let's say 108 plus 104 is 212. I don't know. To me, the total feels a little bit higher than maybe it should be, but both offenses are really good. So what do I know? With that said, Kawhi Leonard certainly in the pool. I think these are all just going to be plays that I play sparingly because there's no argument against it. They all could absolutely get there. They just might run over themselves in terms of success or lack thereof. So Paul George averaging 24 real points a game, Kawhi 25 real points a game, and if they cross pass with like Lou Williams averaging just about 20 points a game, Montrezl Harrell almost 20 points a game, so they all could just like eat at each other just enough to where no one's a fantastic play. Let's talk about the prices on Lou Will and Montrezl Harrell though. Both these guys have individual ceilings to pay off these price points with relative ease. I am very concerned about this Lakers guard and wing defense because a healthy, unrestricted Avery Bradley, Danny Green, KCP, they can make life tough for mid to long range shooter like Lou Williams, but Lou Williams is pretty pure with his scoring ability. So maybe, I don't know, maybe the price and the opportunity is just enough for me to take to have some shares of. I probably tier 3 Lou Williams at 5,800 on DraftKings, 51 on FanDuel. Like I could. Worse, like 25 wouldn't kill me, and I think if this game stayed close enough, and Lou Will didn't get ejected like he did against Houston, 30 fantasy points is a realistic range of outcome. He's done that in the last 4 games that he didn't get ejected in, and almost no matter what the minutes are. So if you paint this game staying pretty close, I could be a buyer. Montrezl Harrell, I've paid $7,000 for Montrezl Harrell this season. The matchup is rough. It really is. So this one, they did a great job of making you think about it because the Lakers are allowing the fewest fantasy points per game on the slate to opposing centers. And we know that besides like the Milwaukee Bucks, the Lakers, when AD is active, when JaVale McGee's active, Lakers allow the 5th fewest points in the paint. And that's where Montrezl Harrell is going to score a lot of his stuff. Montrezl is going to take some meditating on at 55 because he can muscle his way there to 25, 30 fantasy points. 30 fantasy points, if we thought that's what we would get, the risk reward isn't even that, like, that strong, but I'd still take 30. He's gotten us 29, 35, 29, 28, 47. So, I mean, the reasoning is there. I would say this is a really rough matchup. What did he do last time? 38 minutes played. He got 34 fantasy points. Do we think they just abandon Ivica Zubac and really lean on Montrez? For the size there, is very possible. Can he stay out of foul trouble? If he, I gotta play him. Right? I just think he's too talented. Matchup's tough. But I gotta play him. I'll probably tier 3 him, meaning I cap him at 25%. Oh, that might be the smallest cap I've ever put on Montrezl Harrell this season. That is, All right, I take a little bit, just a little bit, right? So give me some Montrez, give me some Lou Will. I mean, the main four that I ever target from the Clippers is going to be Paul George, Kawhi, Montrez, Lou Williams. I don't see myself getting too enamored with some of these supplementary plays. If you tell me you want to take a shot on Beverly on FanDuel because of position scarcity, I definitely wouldn't argue with you. And I'll be honest, I might end up falling into that group as well. Focusing on the Lakers here, LeBron James is under 10K. I know it's Kawhi. I know it's Paul George. He's under 10K. If this game stays neutral, like it's projected to a 2-point spread, LeBron James has a very strong shot at 50-plus fantasy points. He is, 9'9", so he's a little bit, he's about $1,000 more than Russell Westbrook. Last game against the Clippers, he dropped just 46. Last couple games, 56, 42, 68. There's a lot of between 50s and 60s there. The game stays neutral, man. I just got to bank on LeBron being a thing. Really do. Is Kawhi the ultimate LeBron stopper? LeBron James, DKP by game log versus Kawhi Leonard last 10 games. Fastest typer in the West, by the way. 46, 43, 38, 48, 52. Ooh-wee. Man, none of these games, outside of this 57.5, which might have been a playoff. Yeah, that's a finals game, actually. Outside of that game, which is whatever, it's the NBA Finals, put his life on the line. There's really not nothing that at 10K would break the slate if you didn't have it, especially if you thought a similarly priced Joel Embiid. If we look at LeBron, he's $100 more than Embiid. If we thought Embiid could go after some of his 70, 80-point games that he's been doing against Brook Lopez, then sure, we'd take that, right? We take the Embiid games here. So maybe I'm a little lighter on LeBron. If I'm light on LeBron and I look at this Clippers team and where I could beat him, I think Anthony Davis is where I could beat him. It's a matchup nightmare for any team, but the Clippers are undersized, and we've been seeing some active bigs really, really, really do well against the Clippers. Just out of curiosity, looking at the last couple of bigs, power forwards, and centers against the Clippers. Let's pull up Anthony Davis. Where you at, buddy? PJ Tucker dropped 34.5 in 37 minutes. Larry Markkinen in 40 minutes dropped 45.75. Who else? Nikola Jokic only played 28 minutes, dropped 37 DKP. Brook Lopez was almost a point per minute in 33 minutes. Miles Turner over a point per minute in 32 minutes. Bam Adebayo over a point per minute in 36 minutes. So really good. That's the matchup against the Lakers. Excuse me. I just put LA. I didn't even look at the last one. So Steven Adams dropped 51 in 32 minutes. That's huge. Clint Capella, 36 and 39 minutes. Wendell Carter Jr., 35 and 37 minutes. So a couple of bigs have done really, really well against this Clippers front court. So if I'm a little bit hesitant on LeBron, and I don't really expect Avery Bradley, Danny Green, and even JaVale McGee to that extent to fill in the blanks, it's going to be the Anthony Davis show for me at 10.1K. Can I get 60-plus fantasy points from him? I think so. He dropped 48 against them last game. Went 8 for 21. Last couple games from him have easily all been above 50 fantasy points. There's a 49 against Orlando, a 43 against Utah, 42 against Denver, 49 against Dallas. But I definitely think 50 to 60 fantasy points is a reasonable range of outcome here. Again, I think both teams are super plus defensively. So there are plenty of arguments against extracting super high ceiling games, but I also think both teams are super efficient offensively, and this game could play close enough. All these games that are on Christmas were initially designed to play super close, and you never know, you might get some overtime, get some magical extra innings. Even the Warriors game was projected to, when it was scheduled, it was one of those games they thought could play really close. So even if we didn't think, regulation would be enough, I think a couple of these games we could at least have some exploratory ownership to potential overtime. But also for the DraftKings Stocks Challenge, the 20 steals and blocks, you definitely know the Clippers are full of guys that can get you that. Kawhi Leonard, almost 2 steals a game. If we go to the most blocks allowed, let's see, where are the Clippers and where are the Lakers? Clippers are allowing just under 5 blocks per game this season. The Lakers are allowing the fewest blocks per game. So if you're going to attack the Clippers with some block guys, that's cool. But if vice versa, it's not as fruitful. So AD, could we get some blocks out of Anthony Davis? Absolutely. So if you wanted to roster him to try and split that 20 blocks and steals thing, sure. He had 4 blocks last game, 3, 2, 3, 2. So definitely a top target for blocks per game and a guy that could play extended minutes here and do really, really well. I put him down for a soft 35-minute projection, spit back 55 fantasy points. So I'm cool with that. Off the bench here, I don't think Rajon Rondo is somebody I'm going to go crazy for. But if you're a gambling man, you love the narratives and gambling, national television game, Christmas narrative, whatever it is you might want, Rajon Rondo certainly could fit the bill on that there, and he does have these random 30 DKP games. He had 27 last game. Remember, LeBron was out that game. Prior to that, 25, there's a 30 bomb in there against Atlanta, 48 against Utah. So the range of outcomes for a couple of upside games to help you win $1 million or $200K, something like that. There is a large enough range of outcome where I probably don't have none, but it's not something I'm going nuts about. I hope you guys don't hear that train horn too much, but that train is a chugging. I don't know if it's the Polar Express or what. And that's probably it. I'm probably not dumpster diving too much off of this bench. What is Rondo's price on Yahoo? Just out of curiosity. Rondo, where we at? On Yahoo, Rajon Rondo is $11, 5.5%. So he's 7.3% on FanDuel, 9% on DraftKings. So this is another great example of a player that maybe doesn't make us all giddy on one site, but hey, on Yahoo, he's right there in the mix. So yeah, maybe Rajon Rondo cracks the Yahoo player pool, and I'm cool with that, right? All right, we got one game left on the docket. For that, take a pause for the cause. Let you guys know that if you want to rejoin the live stream, I guess it would be Thursday, right? What's what we're looking at? What's the upcoming schedule looking like? Let me pull it up on the main screen. Friday. Is it Friday? Yeah, Friday we got a 5-game main slate. So that's either going to be a 3 p.m. Eastern or 4 p.m. Eastern for 5 games. Thunder, Hornets. Oh, man. Steven Adams. Yes, please. Sixers, Magic. Bucks, Hawks. Suns, Warriors, Pacers, Heat. We could probably get away with a 4 p.m. Eastern stream on that, but don't quote me on that. But just stay tuned with the times on the stream. Go to gundacker.live. Hopefully, and I mean hopefully, the YouTube powers that be will stop suspending the channel for 8-year-old links or whatever. You guys have been, just real quick, you guys that have been looking for my content on YouTube, I keep getting suspended from YouTube for like 4 or 5-year-old videos that have DraftKings links in the description, and they consider links to DraftKings as harmful or violent content. I guess online gaming, online gambling. And since I have literally hundreds of videos up with every description having referral links to all these sites, I just straight up put them all on private, and it was just like, nah, that's not good enough. We're still going to tag you. So I'm going to I have to delete every video I've ever done. I have to just delete it and start afresh. So that's going to be the plan going forward. So hopefully we can get a stronger content schedule and get you guys back in the mix. Those of you guys that haven't been able to be part of the live Twitch streams, I do miss you guys. But on top of that, man, one of the best ways to stay connected with me and the spreadsheet and all that good stuff is by being a subscriber at RunDFS.com. Every day before lock, we have a 2-hour pre-lock voice chat. I don't know if we'll have 2 hours on Christmas Day, but every other non-holiday, we usually have a 2-hour pre-lock voice chat. You guys can jump in on, grab a mic, be part of the conversation, or just listen in on it, man. Listen to some dudes talk, shoot the breeze, come up with some plays as news comes out, talk about ownership projections, what they're doing, what I'm doing, what you're doing. And you could be part of that every day in the 24/7 Discord. It's an app you can download on your desktop, your laptop, your mobile device, and just be part of a 24/7 community of strong grinders. It's kind of fraternal, so you might have some thicker skin as we point and laugh at each other. We have a good time. You also get access to the spreadsheets, my picks, my player pools, all that good stuff. So if you guys want a cool way to support me, the YouTube channel, the Twitch channel, and RunDFS.com, go to RunDFS.com, get yourself a VIP pass. If you get the year pass this week, you get a pair of items from the gundacker.live/merch shop. So you can get yourself a Run DFS shirt, a Gundacker polar bear logo shirt, a hoodie. You can even get the coffee cup and all that good stuff. So go do that. Go be part of the family for the entire 2020 season. We'd love to have you. New Orleans Pelicans play the Denver Nuggets. That's going to be your main event of the Christmas slate. And it is a Pelicans team featuring Drew Holiday, J.J. Redick, Brandon Ingram, Kenrich Williams, and Derek Favors as your projected starting five. We look at the Nuggets, project starting five, Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, Will Barton, Paul Millsap, and Nikola Jokic. We got a 218.5 total, a 9.5 point spread in favor of the home team Denver Nuggets. One of those situations where we're dealing with the altitude. Yay, that's a fun one. I'm going to drink a sip of water. Excuse me. Man. Usually when I talk for hours about sports, I have a co-host and I can sip in between and not be as unprofessional. Let's talk about the Pelicans side. Drew Holiday's gone all the way down to 7,200. So, what we know about the Pelicans? Well, they're going to play fast-paced. They're going to play very poor on defense. If we look at the RunDFS.com team stats tab and the RunDFS.com NBA VIP spreadsheet, the Pelicans have the fourth fastest pace in basketball. When it comes to defensive efficiency, 110.6 points per 100 possessions. That's a lot. It seems like just lately, some of these Pelicans games haven't quite put up the big totals. So maybe that's something to investigate as Lonzo Ball's been healthy. We know he can be a plus defender. We know Drew Holiday is an elite guard defender. We know Derek Favors is back in the mix. Kenrich Williams is there. So maybe, just maybe, the Pelicans defense is getting a little bit better. And what I mean by that, and I'll put the scores on the screen, just looking at the last maybe 5 games for the Pelicans, right? 102-94 the Blazers game. 106-102 for a Pelicans-Warriors game. We definitely expected that to be, like a 230, 220 total, right? Pelicans at Timberwolves, 107. Timberwolves scored under 100 points. I think Cat was out, but you get the point. 108 points for the Nets in overtime. That's crazy. Magic went off. Sixers did their thing. But the last couple of games, the Pelican scores have not quite been that of earlier this season. So maybe something to watch. Could be nothing. Could be something. Pelicans starting five. Interested to see what's going on with Derek Favors. That last game, Derek Favors got himself 30 minutes, right? Yeah, 30 minutes. We know that Derek Favors just missed some time. It was not injury related this time. He unfortunately lost his mother. So he was away from the team for a couple weeks. And it's all been a matter of building his conditioning back up. 30 minutes, 27, 30, 21, 20 minutes, 20. It's his last couple games. So has Derek Favors got to where he needs to be, where Alvin Gentry wants him to be a part of this rotation and to play some deep minutes? Maybe, just maybe. Well, when he's getting 25 to 30 minutes, when he gets to 30 minutes, he's got a potential to be 35, 40, 50 DKP type of player. So it's definitely worth monitoring the amount of minutes he's able to produce going forward. He is a kind of an injury-prone player, so I don't think it would be wise of Gentry and the Pelicans to push him too hard. But this is a matchup where you definitely want some size, and some veteran savviness wouldn't hurt as well. Last couple games for him, 37, 29, 21, 27 DKP. I don't think today's the day I'm going to go crazy with trying to explore the favors potential to win me a tournament, but I do think he's at least worth considering, and you guys making your own yes or no answers on him. I probably don't get there. But just something to watch. Brandon Ingram south side of 8K on DraftKings. It's 8,600 on FanDuel. He's a guy that for the bulk of this season I've been banking on to get me 40 fantasy points. He does that more often than he doesn't. Golden State, he missed it by a tray. Orlando, he missed it by a hook. Philadelphia, he missed it by a hook. So you're seeing a lot of 40-plus potential here. And then that Phoenix game, he fouled out and got stitches in the middle of the game. So he's got a good excuse that game. And in that Dallas game, a blowout, 130 to 84. So most of these games that play neutral where he's getting 30-plus minutes, Ingram is doing just enough to get you 40-plus fantasy points, which is the starting point of 7,700. Wouldn't be something that you needed to win a tournament, but it certainly would be a great floor piece to have in your lineup, right? What else we got here? We've got the bench here. Lonzo Ball is 4,500, so he's getting awfully cheap. Now, I don't want to go crazy with rostering Lonzo Ball, but I do think sooner or later this type of price point will net a 30 bomb. It's very possible. We've seen in his last 5 games, he's given us 25 or more DKP. That's a great start at 4,500. If you're going to start me at 25 DKP, I'm a buyer. Maybe my projection's a little bit too low. Now, we do know Denver has a good guard defense. We do know about the altitude. Denver is giving up the 4th fewest fantasy points to opposing point guards on the slate. And when it comes to shooting guards, they're locking them down all the way down, giving up the fewest fantasy points to the slate. So it's a strong defense, but Lonzo Ball is one of those guys that will do just enough of everything: rebounds, assists, steals. He had 5 steals against Golden State, where he does enough of everything that you're not going to need him to do one of like scoring or you know what I'm saying. So 4,500, it's a stocking stuffer that fills the stat sheet. I'll take it. I will. Josh Hart. Do we get 30 minutes out of Josh Hart here? I think it's possible. Do I push the issue with Josh Hart? Probably not. How often do I get the north side of 30 fantasy points here? Probably very, very little. As long as JJ Redick's in the mix and guys like that, I'm not going to push the issue here on Josh Hart. But his price is kind of nice. I don't understand why Lonzo Ball is cheaper than Josh Hart. Is it because he's just getting less minutes? It feels like Lonzo Ball's floor has been much higher. I guess it's got to be the minutes. 18, 22, 21 minutes. Man, if you had yourself a spot, you guys know Drew Holiday is being shopped around for trades, and we're starting to see the trade market kind of shake up. Jordan Clarkson got it all started yesterday. Cavs traded him to the Utah Jazz. If you're playing on a late swaps or no late swap site like FanDuel, and Lonzo Ball, you know what I'm saying? If Lonzo Ball is 4,800 over there, and at 5 p.m. Drew Holiday got traded. I know that's outlandish, but maybe that would just be an elite FanDuel play to take advantage of the no late swap over there. So maybe I'll take a stab or two on Lonzo because point guard is so shallow on FanDuel right now. I don't mind it, right? Nuggets. All the Nuggets are viable. The Pelicans have been so porous on defense at just about every position. If we look at the New Orleans column here, their weakest position has been point guard, small forward, center. Point guard Jamal Murray, 7,100. Christmas narrative, sure, we'll take some of that. Small forward, Will Barton. You guys watch the streams all the time. You know Will Barton's one of my favorite players, and I love the fact that Will Barton today comes to us as point guard, small forward. This is what he's been the last couple slates, but you can play him in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of your roster spots on DraftKings. So he's going to be probably one of the most versatile pieces to glue together some really strong lineups and a really good matchup, a really good pace to bring out the most in him. And he's just one of the guys that if I get to mid-30s, if I break 30, I'm happy. If I get mid-30s to even 40+, I'm all the way happy. So absolutely give me some Will Barton doing a little bit of everything. The steals are there. He's another guy that might help you on that stocks bonus challenge that DraftKings is doing. And the fact that you can just put them anywhere, right? Your lineup maybe doesn't have to have everyone hitting 10x, right? But if you just get a couple guys that just quote-unquote hit value like a Will Barton, and he's versatile. You could play him anywhere. Yeah, Will Barton might end up being my highest owned DraftKings player just based on his ability to be so versatile in lineup construction. So absolutely. And then let's talk about Nikola Jokic, 9,400. Guys, Jokic is back. His production from a fantasy standpoint has been great. A lot of people still have this cloud over him from the first quarter of the season where there's like, oh, he's fat, he's lazy, it looks like he doesn't care. All right, well, his game log lately looks like he wants to win me money. 31 minutes, any game he's getting 30 minutes in the last week or 2 weeks, we've seen almost 60 fantasy points. 59.5 against Phoenix, 58 against Minnesota, 51 against Orlando, 50 against New York, 70 against the Thunder, 56 down there against Boston, and a couple of these are on the road too. We all know about his potential to be a little bit better at home than on the road. This season, he's averaging almost a full 10 points per game more at home than on the road. So you put him at home, hey, I'm a buyer. Earlier this year, 27 minutes, 30 fantasy points, but a lot of those games in the start to the season were just not at the level that he's been playing at lately. So that would be a guy that I'd be really, really interested in as a late night hammer. As your lineups play out game by game by game, have somebody going in the last game to help you climb as high as you could. I'm loving Will Barton as a candidate. I'm loving Jokic as a candidate. And then I'll have some Murray. 7K plus Jamal Murray doesn't always give me the warm and fuzzies here. But he certainly bows really well in this matchup. And there's some viability here. 3 of his last 4 games have exceeded 40 fantasy points earlier this season. However, 26 minutes. I think that might have been a lopsided game. But yeah, you can get 40 plus from him. So he would be in the pool. But I'd have more Barton, and I'd probably have more Jokic based on what I perceive as their floor. Do I get to Paul Millsap today at 4,600 on DraftKings? Maybe it would be a mistake to just dismiss him so fast. But I don't trust a high allotment of minutes. At 4,600, I probably need a minimum of 25. I would love 30 for tournaments, and I see 2 30 bombs in the last 10 games. So I guess you could say there's a 20% range of outcomes in his last 10 that 30 is possible. So maybe he's in the pool. Maybe. Jeremy Grant off the bench. I kind of like him in pace-up spots. I think in the value chart based on raw projections earlier for DraftKings, I thought it was a Nugget up top. No, it was Boucher, wasn't it? DK value. Yeah, I guess it was Boucher. No, it wasn't. It was House. I'm tripping. Any Nuggets up here? Millsap up there. Jokic up there. All right, so we do get some Nuggets up there. So I'll take Jokic. I'll take Barton. And then on the Pelicans side, I'm much less infatuated with New Orleans Pelicans today than I usually am. I guess I'm more compelled to stack against them, but Ingram is in play for me. I do feel like Drew Holiday is a guy that plays much better in tougher perceived matchups. I just talked about how tough the matchup is against Denver. Denver giving up bottom 4 amount to point guards, the lowest amount to shooting guards. I do feel like Drew Holiday has shown us a propensity to thrive in tougher perceived matchups. Orlando, 50 fantasy points, 29 real points. Did his thing there. A bunch of 20-plus real points. There's not a whole lot of tough perceived matchups here. Almost 50 fantasy points against Phoenix. I do think, though, with Lonzo Ball back, we can kind of correlate his lack of true ceiling. It's not the 8K Drew Holiday that we were getting 40s and 50s from, but at 7,200, we do get a discount. So I'd probably have in a pool. I wouldn't have 0. I'd have some Drew. I'd have some Ingram in the pool, and then Lonzo, I think, by price, by hook or by crook, is going to make the cut here. So that is the look at today's or at the Christmas slate for FanDuel, DraftKings, Yahoo. Hopefully, I helped you guys kind of uncover a play or two. And maybe learn a thing or two about the slate, and hopefully you guys go out there and succeed. I think if I'm looking at a quick recap on what I've discovered during just talking out loud, I think the Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo history against each other is really standing out to me, and I think that just might be my way to go. But all these other games are fine too. I think it'll be a very fun day of NBA from an entertainment aspect. I really hope you guys enjoy your day, your Christmas day, whatever holiday you're celebrating, whether it be Hanukkah, whether it be Christmas, man. Enjoy this time of year. We get DFS all year. You get family. A lot of you guys only see your family, a couple times a year. This is one of them. Be sure to enjoy your family. If you guys get them lineups in and you're playing on FanDuel, you ain't got to worry about late swap, man. Just chill out, relax, enjoy the kids, enjoy the cousins, enjoy the mothers, the uncles, because we never know just how many more times we get to enjoy our family, man. I appreciate you guys coming along for the ride, or some of you guys that maybe I won't see or talk to until the New Year's. Man, you guys stay safe, stay strong throughout the cold winter time. But I'll be grinding all 2020. Hopefully on YouTube as well as Twitch, twitch.tv/Gundacker99. And hopefully on YouTube, and have a much stronger content schedule. And then, like I said, if you guys want to ride along for the entire year pass is up at rundfs.com. I love you guys. Appreciate you making part of my day, be part of your day. Good luck. God bless. Go win some money.